everyone, this is Renee from Meadowlark Mystic, and I am doing kind of a fun video. I was going through my collection and thinking about the decks that have a very witchy, mystical, otherworldly vibe, and I started thinking about the Good Tarot and the Thelema Tarot and how they would probably look really good together. So I'm just going to do kind of a side-by-side flip through of them so you can get a sense of that. Also, while I was flipping through them, I had this feeling of the Tyldwick Tarot. And this is a very sought after tarot deck. Unfortunately and sadly, the creator passed away suddenly, I think last year. And so I don't believe any more of his decks will be created. And it was a very beautiful deck of interior spaces. I always thought that the deck would pair beautifully with many other decks, but as I walked through these two decks, I kept thinking of the Tyldwick and some of the spaces on the Good Tarot. So I'm going to do a flip through for you so you can just get a sense of how these two decks look together, and I actually think they go really, really well together. This is a good example actually right here. The background here just kind of reminds me of the Tyldwick a little bit, and some of the Good Tarot have these like emblems at the top, almost like medallions, and that's also something that you would see in the Tyldwick. I like the Good Tarot because it does not have straight up Rider-Waite-Smith imagery. And I also really like the Good Tarot because the kings are older men and the queens are older women, which I really appreciate. The Thelema Tarot and actually the Good Tarot, when I first saw these decks, I was not attracted to them. The Thelema Tarot looked really cheesy to me. And the Good Tarot, sometimes I don't think I really understand what my preferences are until I actually see a deck in person. But both of these decks have really grown on me. This card, I never noticed, well, I didn't notice for a long time that the image in the reflected pool is a young girl. So it could be a reflection of this woman. Again, I just really loved how these two decks seem to have a very similar, they seem to inhabit a similar world, and the Good Tarot in particular reminded me of the Tyldwick, so that's why I'm doing this flip through. I like how decks talk to each other, and I've featured side-by-side flip throughs on my channel of the other decks. If you're interested in that, you can check out which decks I think work really well together. Both of these decks, I believe, are readily available. Oh, like this face really reminds me of the Tyldwick. I've gotten to the stage in my collection where I'm not going to be probably featuring very many new decks, and so I will be constantly trying to experience the decks that I have in my collection that mean a lot to me in new ways. And one of the ways that I do that is through this combination. Again, that reminds me of the Tyldwick because of the interior space, the sense of a door. I think when you combine two decks, it can give new life to both of them. And, you know, not everyone can afford to buy a new deck or several new decks. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with buying new decks. I fully support people who want to buy decks, and I think it's wonderful to support artists, but I also think that sometimes we can get carried away and not really fully appreciate the decks that we have in our collection. So I thought that I would share this interesting side-by-side. I really like this Queen of Earth. I wish the Justice card was older, but I think I say that every time. Sometimes you just need decks that can whisk you away from the cares of everyday life. And with everything that's going on currently, I just really needed kind of a escape decks. And these two are definitely escape decks, I would say. It's, of course, very important to engage with your world and not run away all the time, but sometimes we need a break. That's a beautiful combination. I actually appreciate how this tower is not being exploded, because there is a moment in a tower where right before it's going to explode. And sometimes, like this tower, everything can look fine, but it's not fine. So, and I like this because you can kind of feel like this person's in the boat and this mermaid is below, trying to, give them a message. There's one of the queens. You can also see the artist of the Good Tarot. I forgot her name. It's not readily on the box. But she does a lot of Colette Baron Reid's decks. You can see how she started to put, I think this is what really reminds me of the Tyldwick. She started putting crowns and little things on birds. And then she did the animal, like an animal spirit deck. And so she really went to town on embellishing animals with filigree work and necklaces and crowns. And I'm trying to think if I can see one, but, well, if I see it, I'll let you know. This reminds me a little bit of her animal spirit, with the crown there. These two decks are not going to be even because I'm using the Thelema in a reading right now. Oh, this is so cute with the little like fairy lights, and then you have the fairy lights. Oh, yeah, there's no over here. And that's the back, which also kind of reminds me of the Tyldwick. And the last card is the Hierophant, which looks a lot like the High Priestess. Okay, that's my side-by-side of the Thelema and the Good Tarot, and I hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.